Black women across the country of the United States are reclaiming their time, their rest, and their power on our own terms. And here, we're doing it God's way. Welcome to Sisters Unbothered, the place where we reject the grind, unlearn the struggle, and embrace the kind of peace that can't be shaken. I'm Coach Nikki Cates, and every week we're having real, unfiltered conversations about rest as resistance, ease as strategy, and why soft power is not just a luxury, it's our birthright. Because in a world that expects us to carry everything, choosing rest is revolutionary. So take a deep breath, sis. You don't have to earn this. Now, let's get to it. Hey, girl. Hey. Hey, beautiful people. Welcome back to Sisters Unbothered, the podcast where we unlearn, heal, and rest without apology. I'm Nikki Cates, Coach Nikki Cates, and today we are having that conversation. The one we all need, but don't always want to have it because it's about dun 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 releasing control. I should have put some sound effects in there. Now listen, I already know some of y'all just tensed up because if we're honest, control just isn't a habit for many of us. It's been our survival mechanism. I know me personally, living many years from a space of insecurity, trying to control people and circumstances and things was always a part of my way of thinking that I was able to provide some sort of security or guarantee that I would be able to show up and survive for me and my children. We've been taught that if we don't hold everything together, everything will fall apart. And so that's, I believe, where that desperate attempt to try to control as much as you can so that you're able to feel like and sleep at night that things are at least somewhat maintaining some composure, right? Things make sense. But what if I told you that real power isn't in holding on, but it's in letting go? All right. Look, hear me out. I know it sounds fake deep, but sis, we were never meant to carry the world on our shoulders. Think about it. Biologically, we were built to carry less. And yet, here we are, exhausted, overwhelmed, and sometimes even resentful for it. So today we're going to talk about how to let go. Not just because it sounds good, not just because we've heard the cliche, let go, let God, but because our well-being truly does depend on it. So let's go ahead and get into it. Okay. I don't think I have to prompt you to admit this, but let's say it anyway. Let's be real. Black women, we've been carrying everything. I think we figured that out last year, and now we're over it. Okay? For generations, we've had to be the backbone, the nurturer, the provider, the fixer, and not just for our own families and communities, but for, I'm gonna just say it because I'm over being politically correct at this point, but also for our colonizers. We are the ones who tend to make it work. We raised our own children, make sure they were safe, make sure they were educated, make sure they were fed and clean and loved. And then we had to turn around and do it for somebody else's children. And in some senses, we're still doing that today. Maybe not to that extent as far as, living in the house, if you know what I'm saying. But some of our jobs are very much so still master's house, plantations. So it's not all the way different, sis. It's still the same concept. And not just for ourselves, but we make it work for our families, our communities. And like we just said, the people who really don't deserve our labor. But let's pause for a second. Who told us that being strong means doing it all alone? Where did that come from? Where did that concept come from? Because I'm not going to lie, I feel a lot more boss when I get things done on my own without help. But is that the best way? Is that the way that it's intended? That is definitely the surefire way to ending up in a state of depression and burnout. And I've been there too many times to count to tell you it's all a lie. But we didn't come into this world just knowing this. It was taught to us. And the truth is, a lot of those messages came from systems that benefit from our exhaustion. Capitalism, patriarchy, white supremacy, they all thrive when Black women believe we have to be everything for everyone and no one has to be anything for us. It's crazy. It's absolutely bananas if you look at it from the outside looking in, but it's definitely how we've been conditioned. And let's not even get started on the church. Whew. Some of us were raised in spaces that equated suffering with holiness. Like if you weren't tired, struggling, or pouring from an empty cup, were you even a good woman of God? Lord knows I had to break myself free from this mindset, working for free, tirelessly, with little to no appreciation. And you're doing it in the name of the Lord, and you're doing that on top of everything else that you're doing in life. Everything but being who God created you to be. And sometimes we turn that being who God created us to be into a task, into our own self made hamster wheel. It's crazy when we don't check our mindsets and lay them on the altar before the Lord and allow Him to deconstruct them for us, to renew us in the spirit of our minds. But sis, hear me. Strength is not suffering. Independence is not the goal. And exhaustion is not a spiritual gift. I don't recall seeing that anywhere in the New Testament. You could go fact check me. Go fact check me. I dare you. The Bible says in Psalms 46:10, "Be still and know that I am God." And I literally listened to Dietrich Haddon's Stand Still yesterday on repeat 3 or 4 times. I hadn't heard it in a while. And it's just such a beautiful song, him and Donnie McClurkin. I suggest that you go and listen to it yourself on repeat a few times to really take it in. Be still and know that I am God. There is nothing hustle culture about that statement. There is nothing exhausting about that statement. There's nothing that says, do this on your own in that statement. But many of us have been conditioned to believe, be busy and prove that you are worthy. That's not our calling. No matter what you've been told, no matter what you've seen emulated, no matter how you feel, that is not your calling, my sister. Breaking free from the hustle mindset. Let's talk about hustle culture for a moment. There's already an amazing book out there by Shay Bynes that talks about grace over grind. I have to look at what year she wrote that book, but if you Google it, you will find it. She already speaks about this. And then you have Trisha Hersey's Rest is Resistance. So these are some good reads to check out. There's another book on rest. I can't remember what it's called right now that a girlfriend, well, my bestest of friends, she read it. It was like last year, I think. And I was trying to encourage her to teach from it that gives you the different levels of rest. Rest, though, sis, is so much more, especially in this season that we're learning. It's so much more than just physically and mentally resting. Okay. It's about developing a strategy for long term rest as resistance and remembering that love is also a form of resistance. It is the root of resistance, according to Dr. G. And I want you all to take that in, okay, as we're talking about this, because we love to glorify the grind. I have in my office, and every day I'm hustling, placard that sits in my office. I too have only thought that I was merited any type of celebration when I busted my tail first, and was mad when nobody else acknowledged it. This is not God's best for us, my friend. And I get it. You've had to work twice as hard to get half as much. Rest can feel like a luxury. We out here thinking we Olivia Pope, okay? But is it? Was it best for her if you've watched Scandal? Or is that just what we've been taught to believe? So, sis, If rest was really a luxury, why would God command it? He just being extra? Matthew 11:28 says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." I read it again, Matthew 11:28. "Come to me, all of you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Not that I will give you more tasks, not I will reward your hustle, not that the expectations need to be met first, but I will give you rest. So why do we resist it? A lot of times it's fear. Come on now. Let's be very real right now. I'll be fully transparent. I mentioned it earlier. To me, I would lose control, and I already felt incapable. I was already dealing with imposter syndrome. I was already dealing with not being good enough, needing the validation of others. And so I thought I was accustomed to believing that that was done through what I do, not who I am. Because who I was or who I am is not acceptable as what I do to the external world. And we're going to deconstruct that in the coming weeks and months because that has been ingrained in us in response to the colonizing mentality that has ruled over us. And I know you don't want to hear that, but that is definitely the way of the world. That is exactly why the Bible tells us to not be conformed to the ways of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. That's why the Bible is telling us about these things. Okay? I am going to be teaching on this extensively because we have to be liberated, my sisters. God is calling for us in this season of rest to be liberated. A lot of times it's fear that if we stop, everything will fall apart. But will it? Will it? Fear that if we let go, we'll be seen as weak. Will we? Should we? Let's keep it real. How many of us are married or in relationships, partnerships? Think about it. You could probably use a little being seen as weak so you're not burning yourself out to exhaustion and maybe even gaining even more respect from the other person because now you're not superwoman and don't need nobody. And then you can have the soft life that we've been throwing around social media that we want. But a lot of us are afraid to be seen as weak because we relate that to um, being doormats or pushovers. Again, not good enough. We got some work to do, my sisters. I say we because I'm still working on decolonizing and deconstructing my own mind and my own beliefs. All right. And if God's going to work it on out in me, He's going to use me to help work it on out in you. So stick with me. And let's also be honest, sometimes control makes us feel safe. It's a way of saying, if I don't let anyone else handle this, I won't be disappointed. I don't know how many times I've said it out my own mouth, or I've heard it said around me in my youth that it's better for us to do it ourselves to make sure it gets done right. But listen, again, do you need it always done right the way that you think is perfection, or do you just need it done? That's working smarter, not harder. How many of us are still saying, I don't need nobody to pick my groceries for me. I don't need nobody to pick my fruit, my produce. I don't need nobody picking up this for me, doing that for me. I don't need to hire somebody to clean my house or do my laundry. Sis, one thing I have learned in my life, and I've learned it from other women that have had this revelation. These things do not define us. The only thing that defines us is us actually moving in the purpose that God has given us. When we get to those pearly gates, He is not going to mention whether we kept the laundry done like clockwork, folded and put up. We kept our family with a hot breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single day, plus bringing in half or more of the income in the house. Did we do what He created us in our mother's wombs to do? That's what He is going to be concerned about. And that may include loving your spouse or your partner. That may include raising your children to your best ability and then coaching them into the next seasons of their lives. That may include your service unto others in reasoning. But the most important aspect of who we are, why we're here, is to fulfill our unique purpose. I am 46 years old and I am just now starting to move into that, sis. But last year, he had to deliver me from this aspect of if I don't let anyone else handle this, I won't be disappointed. I had to trust other people with my branding. I had to trust other people with so many things in my life that I thought only I truly understood. I had to hand my babies over to someone else. And I don't mean my children, I mean creatively, professionally, ministerially, okay? At some point, we have to, in order to truly birth what we've been put here to birth, because there is a void in this earth until you do. That is uniquely your own, okay? But, sis, how much peace have you sacrificed trying to control things that were never yours to carry? That's what I want you to sit with today. Are you carrying what you are supposed to be carrying? Listen, when our children are younger, we really are expected to do everything for everyone. I get it. But them kids get old enough to where they can do it themselves. Why are you still doing it? Why have you not shifted into investing in yourself and becoming who God created you to be beyond being a wife and a mother? You know why? Because when you are brought up in a colonizing, capitalistic society that downplays the voices and the contributions of women, this weighs on your thought processes. It weighs on how you see yourself. It weighs on what you believe. It weighs on how you see God. It weighs on your interactions, how you see your interactions with others in the world around you. All of this plays a part between us feeling exhausted every single day as soon as our feet hit the floor, sometimes before, because the thoughts have already started racing, or the guilt that we're not doing enough, we're not living up to the hype. Sis, this is not God's will for you, okay? And so, in this season of rest, I have been called to show up here in front of you and say, utilize this time to set things straight within yourself so that He can set things straight around you. Okay? So, now that we've established that we are, in fact, addicted to hustle culture, let's talk about what rest really should be. The R.E.S.T framework, a new way of living. I say new, but it's really not. It's really not, sis. You know why? Because it's based off the Word of God, and the Word of God is ancient. Now, because I know we don't just need theory, we need strategy, I want us to talk about how we can actually release control. Okay? So let's talk about the R.E.S.T framework first. R, release control. Psalms 46:10 says everything is not your responsibility. Stop playing God in your own life. We talked about this in the last podcast and in the last blog post. If you your own God, then who got you? Hmm? That's why you out there feeling like you all alone and you ain't got no help and you ain't got no support and you ain't got no appreciation and you just mad at everybody about it. Been there. Trust me. You know why I was there? Because I was trying to be my own God. Yeah, I loved God. I said I did. I thought I was serving Him. I thought I was trying to be a good Christian girl. But guess what? Deep down, I didn't genuinely trust that He would genuinely show up. And I didn't want to be disappointed. So what did I do? I tried to make things happen. And I know I'm not the only one. Stop playing God in your own life and make a commitment to release control. Embrace God's timing. That's E. Embrace God's timing. Ecclesiastes 3:1. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it's not coming. When I tell you impatience, oh my gosh. Y'all, it took God a good 2 years to break me from that. He had to ingrain it in me that patience is for the long game, long term. When you operate out of impatience, you have to keep revisiting. You have to keep starting over. You have to keep. It's kind of like when you buy something of low quality that you're going to use all the time and you end up realizing that I should have just bought the more quality item that costs more for long term. Because when you go cheap, that's what you get. And you're going to have to keep going back and buying it again and again. It's like buying a Dollar Tree or Five Below phone charger or headphones and having to rebuy them every other month instead of just spending more money and getting something quality that's going to last for years. You see the difference? I used to do this with shoes, I used to do this with handbags. It's true. And I know I'm not the only one. Skincare items, hair products. We try to take the cheaper route thinking that we're saving something when really all we're doing is we're just adding on because now you've got to buy it more often. Now you're not reaping the benefits that you wanted to reap and so now you're trying to skip around and find something else that works. When the reality is you just need to invest in quality over quantity and your time has to be the same way, okay? S. Sit in his presence. Matthew 11:28. What would it look like to let yourself just be instead of always doing? Just be, just be, just be, just be, sister. T. Trust in his provision. Philippians 4:19. God will provide. He will. But sometimes he's waiting on you to stop trying to provide for yourself. Pausing for effect on that one because I'm speaking to myself too. That goes back to the impatience piece, right? That goes back to not recognizing that his timing is not ours. That goes back to realizing you are not responsible for making everything happen. Now, I want you to think about these for a second and think about which one do you struggle with the most? Is it trusting God's timing? Is it letting it go, releasing control? I know for me, it's embracing rest because I've been programmed to do. But I also had to go through the process of these other ones as well in order to get to this point of allowing things to unfold instead of trying to make them happen. That's a bar and a word for somebody. I want you to embrace it, please, my sister. So let's make this more personal. What's your area of struggle? What does that look like for you? And a lot of times we try to separate personal from professional. But can I tell you that you're always going to affect one with the other? No matter how hard you try, no matter how much you think you got your professional life under control. Because I've heard people say, well, that's the one thing I can control. But can you? Can you? Either way, you can't control people. You can't control demonic influence. You can't control systemic injustices that are already built into our systems and infrastructures. You can't control anything, sis, but you, who you are, and how you show up. Let's just keep it 100. So, really give this some thought, okay? I'm here to push you into your best self. And the only way we're doing that is we're doing that through surrender, okay? All right, so let's talk about the power of community and sisterhood. Before we wrap up, let me say this. Rest is not, N-O-T, a solo journey. When I first started doing the women's transformation circles through Meetup and online a couple years ago, the whole concept of it for me was coming out of self-isolation and starting to create community with other women who wanted to have conversations about transformations, specifically because I had tried doing this before through other groups, and it was about all of the external surface level stuff that wasn't making my life better. How are you making my life better by us brunching every weekend? That's money. That's time that I could be spending doing something else. Happy houring every week. This is not making life better. This is lulling yourself, lullabying yourself to sleep while the world happens around you. It's distraction. Not that you don't need it sometimes, my friend, but it's better, like I tell my daughters, it's better to put the work in now so that you don't have to fight those battles later, right? When we were young, I'm a young Xer, okay? And we were young. We were told to enjoy your youth. Go ahead and get it in while you're young. But you know what the truth is? And what I have been trying to condition in my daughters is the reality that if you get it done early, man, what does life look like well after that? Instead of you blowing it all now and then trying to play catch up later. It's like it bees like that. Okay. So I just want you to think about that. Okay. I want you to think about it. It's not too late to create community. It's not too late to show yourself friendly. It's not too late to connect with people that connect with you where you are. When you grow, either you have a circle that grows with you or you have to shift on and move on to the next. All right. What was it? Tyler Perry that mentioned that people are only in your life for a season. You have to recognize what that season is. Are they there for growth or are they there for pruning? Are they there for when you're in a season of no reproduction? Like the tree is close to death and hibernation. Like you have to understand why people are there. Are they intended to continue to be there into the next season with you? Or are you intended to accept that they are going to at some point wither and fall off the tree? Okay. One of the biggest lies we've been told is that we have to figure it out alone. And this is not how we were designed. Community matters, sisterhood matters, support matters. So if you've been isolating yourself, trying to do life without help, let this be your sign to stop. 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 Sis, hey, stop. Reach out, lean on your people. And if you don't have people, start building them. And they don't have to be all encompassing for all parts of your life. I had to learn this. I may have a mentor or a friend or a colleague that feels the need in one area that wouldn't feel the need in another. That's why you can't look at all of your friends in a friend group and expect them to all be friends and all do the same thing and serve the same purposes. Okay? Because they're not. Some friends are only for clubbing and partying and drinking and just forgetting about what's going on in the world. Some friends about deep reflection. They're the ones that will pray with you. They're the ones that will listen to you when you're trying to figure stuff out. You know how we do. We talk in circles and then we figure out the answer afterwards. You need those kinds of friends. Sometimes you just need someone that's going to be okay to just be. We just going to sit on this beach or on this couch and just give each other company. That's it. Not much more demands than that. Someone you can go out to eat with, try new foods, and have conversations that don't go too deep but aren't too superficial either. They just kind of fit in that nice little spot, where it's comfortable. But it takes work. Okay. Not the work in the sense of trying to control. All right. That's what we're trying to break free from. But it is going to take intention and it is going to take consistency and commitment. And I can't scream that louder than anything. I have made myself available to people over the years. And I used to think I was the one responsible for maintaining or building that relationship. When the reality is, once I've made myself available to you, I may try once or twice, but it is not my responsibility to carry the relationship. And we do that to each other. And then we have something to say about it because the other person must be acting funny. Maybe it's just not a good fit. Maybe that person's going through some things and you need to be praying for them behind the scenes that God will show up in their lives so that they can show up in a friendship. It's all in how you see it, my sister. And the point is for us to be renewing our minds so that we no longer see it from this grind, hustle, knotted culture, always in a tight knot. We want to let that knot go and feel the relief of it. Okay? Control isn't just about work. It's also about emotional walls. And sis, we can't keep blocking our own blessings. It's not just about what you do. It's about what you think, what you believe, how you feel. I could start throwing terms out there to you like reframing and limiting beliefs. But in this season, what I understand is all of that still falls under the very same two words that are the foundations of everything I do at this point: decolonizing and deconstructing, and doing it God's way. Okay? So that's what we're going to keep talking about. All right. Before we go, I want you to sit with a question because a life coach loves a good question. What is one belief about strength, rest, or control that you've inherited from family, culture, or even the church that no longer serves you? And what would it look like to release it? And I would like to add to that. Do you experience guilt in just thinking about releasing it? That's a good question. Because when you've been conditioned to think a certain way, to do certain things, and people have certain expectations of you, it is difficult. It is challenging to move past that and to be liberated. But if you want to stop being exhausted and you want to stop feeling like you're running on this hamster wheel and getting nowhere, sis, at some point, you're going to have to release it, okay? So let that marinate. And if you feel led, send me a message or share your thoughts in the Sisters Unbothered community. Please go on there and subscribe on Substack, y'all. Subscribe on YouTube. You need that community. And if this is resonating with you, God is saying you need me as a part of your life. Okay? And that's not me trying to sound some type of way or to lift myself, because I am not the one. My introverted self would be more than happier to sit here in this house and read and write to my heart's content and interact with no one. But that's not who He called us to be. So I too have to be mindful about creating a sense of community. And remember, we need community and we need each other, because this is the work of unlearning, healing, and choosing peace. Doing that on your own, if that were possible, you would have done it by now, which means you need others. And it's time to accept this reality, okay? I love y'all. And remember, sis, you do not have to hold it all together. God's got you. You weren't built for that kind of weight. I was having this conversation with my best friend this morning about this statement we keep saying. Either some people say we ain't built like our ancestors, we not going to sit around letting blah, blah, blah happen. Or we're not built like our ancestors, we're not strong as them. And I'm going to be real with y'all. I don't think any of us know how strong we are until we have to be. I have 4 daughters, and they have asked me over the years, especially in their adulthood, now that they realize how hard life can be, how I did anything that I've done from teen motherhood on. And my response is always the same. I did it because I had to. All right? That's something for you to chew on and marinate on, my sister. I love you so much. Until next time, rest well. Rest intentionally. Okay? Rest is your resistance, and love is the root of resistance. So let's focus on rest and love God's way. All right, sis, that's a wrap on this episode of Sisters Unbothered. If today's conversation reminded you that you don't have to hustle for your worth, make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. And don't keep this to yourself. Send it to a sister who needs to hear this, girl. Let's keep this energy going. Follow me on TikTok or Fanbase at I am Nikki Cates. Also, on Substack, you can find Sisters Unbothered with Coach Nikki. And on YouTube at Nikki Cates, Sisters Unbothered, or I am Nikki Cates. For more on rest, faith, and living unbothered as Black women in America. Because choosing rest is choosing freedom. And Black women, we deserve both. Talk to you soon.